So we just picked up the Gallardo. The wrap is off of it and it's got the stock wheels back on. It's ready to ship back to Lamborghini Dallas so that they can ship us the Aventador. So I figured what better time than to do the 5 things that I hate about my Lamborghini Gallardo, since it's on its way out and it won't matter if we hurt its feelings a little bit anyways. We just filled up with gas, but we only put about 10 gallons in it because that goes right with the first thing that I hate about my Lamborghini Gallardo. It has probably the coolest seats I've ever seen. When you first sit down in them, you can't help but feel like you're just sucked right into the seat and that it's going to be the most comfortable thing ever because the car runs pretty smooth. Then you start driving, and at about an hour and a half of no cruise control and holding your leg and foot at the exact position if you're on the highway or if you're trying to go on a long road trip, sometimes like going down to get ready for a rally or something, it's just a long droning drive. At about 90 minutes, this whole side of your body goes numb, and there's no way to really shift because you have to keep your foot on the pedal because there's no cruise control. So you're pretty much stuck in that exact position. I drove it for service for 3.5 hours, and I honestly thought that like something was gonna give out because my back and leg hurt so bad from not being able to move for 3.5 hours. So I've learned to make frequent fuel stops because just getting out for a couple of minutes is the night and day difference. The other thing is the car will start flashing 2HR at you. It's a 2-hour warning. Apparently, even the car doesn't want to go anymore after 2 hours. It wants you to stop and take a break. So it's actually warning you that you've been driving for a long time. So the number one thing I would say is that it's just not made for road trips. It's really made for burning around for short runs. So the second thing I hate about my Lamborghini Gallardo goes right off of the first one of the cruise control. There is no cruise control. It has a tape deck. There's no USB ports. There's no MP3 port. There's a CD. There's a 6-disc CD changer. There are no cup holders. It basically lacks all creature comforts and just screams, I am a race car. There's no need for all of those other things. So when it comes to that, it just doesn't have the extra stuff. The stereo in this car is horrendous. The good news is I leave it off all the time because I'd rather hear the intake breathe and that phenomenal exhaust note. But if you were on a longer trip and you just didn't want to listen to the exhaust drone the entire time, a decent stereo sure would have been nice. The third thing was something I read a lot about, knew this was coming. The visibility. There is none. So if you're trying to back up, you put it in reverse and try to back up, you can't look backwards. There's no way to turn because that window is too high to see. This window is too high to look around. So you literally look in your 3 mirrors and just put it in reverse and hope for the best. And that's it. I mean, you just listen for crunching noises, about your only chance. Going hand in hand with that are lane changes. Because you can't see behind you, you can see where cars were, but you can't see where cars are. So typically, if I'm doing a lane change, I will simply do the best look I can, and then I will throttle the hell out of the car. I'll show you in a second here. But I was talking, so I wasn't watching. Because you have to count the last car you saw, and that will give you a hint of when you can lane change. And then you basically throttle as close to the next car in front of you and hope that nobody's coming from your left because you can't see them either. So the visibility is almost non-existent. The good news is if you like being a race car driver, it feels like the real deal because it's just a pray and lane change and hope for the best. The A stands for auto. The fourth thing I hate is that that's not real. If you hit that button and drive this car in auto and don't shift with the paddle shifters, it will eat up the E-gear clutch, which is about $9,000 to have changed out. They say if you run an auto all the time, you'll get about 5,000 miles out of a clutch, which if you have to buy a $9,000 clutch every 5,000 miles, this is going to be the most expensive car you can get your hands on because you're just constantly eating them up. So what you have to do instead is you put it in sport mode. You do not have it in auto. You put it in sport, which is going to cause snappier gear shifts, and then you run the paddle shifts and you shift at all times. Now what that also means is when you roll up to a stop sign, you have to pull in both to go to neutral, or a stoplight, or even in heavy traffic, you constantly want to go to neutral because then it'll stop slipping the clutch. So what I've learned to drive it, but it's one of those things where you wish once in a while, especially in big traffic or something, you could just hit the letter A, drive the car without any effort, and go from there. But that's really not an option unless if you're going to get stock in Lamborghini clutches, because you're going to go through them so fast. Beyond the automatic and you have to paddle shift, the part that amazes me is how slow the Gallardo is off the line. So if you're at a stoplight and you put it in first gear and punch it, it goes and it does like Lambo things, really high RPMs, and you kick everybody's ass. The problem is you're so slow off the line that I have been beat by just about every vehicle made. I don't know if it really happened, but I always picture a Dodge Neon being able to beat me off the line because that hesitation, that initial E-gear grabbing is so sluggish that you just have no takeoff. If you ever watch these things at the drag strip, they get smoked off the bat all the time, and they just don't take off. I think most people that I take for a ride think that every time we leave a stoplight, they're just going to get thrown back. It doesn't happen. You do not go from neutral to first and then go and have any kind of like, oh my God moment. It's like a oof, and then it goes. It's like that. So the number one thing I hate about my Lamborghini Gallardo, and the reason that we're not keeping the Lamborghini Gallardo, is straight up, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's so true, no Lambo doors. So the Gallardo was the first first make of the V10 for Lamborghini, and to kind of prove a point, they took away the scissor doors from the V10 so that they could keep it for their V12, their flagship car. So what happens now, and I had convinced myself I could get over that, even though the reason I was wanting a Lamborghini was for Lambo doors. All these other vehicles were getting Lambo doors with the vertical door add-ons. I figured I would just get over it. It's still a Lamborghini. Well, that was fine until the first family of 6 came to the shop and asked to see the Lamborghini because they had heard we had one. They were on a family vacation. So it's mother, uncle, father, aunt, the kids, this whole family comes walking in. They go, oh, can we see the inside? So I walk over and I pop the door, and literally the entire family let out a sigh of disappointment. That was right in the beginning. And the mom said, what happened to the doors? And I realized at that moment that 99.9% people are not going to know anything about the V10 and realize that none of the Gallardos have Lambo doors. So since then I've heard, oh, it must be a kit car. There's no way that's a real Lamborghini. It doesn't even have Lambo doors. What the hell happened to your doors? Are the doors broken? Can you make the doors go up now? People are obsessed with the doors not doing what the Lambo doors are supposed to do, which to me has driven me right up the wall because it was something I was already bugged about, and then I thought I could get over it, but not when everybody reminds me every single day of my entire life. So that would be the number one thing and the number one reason why the Gallardo has to go now, and it's time to bring on the Aventador. So for that reason, gotta say goodbye to the Gallardo. But it's been awesome, beautiful car. It's still a Lamborghini. I wouldn't have it any other way. I have a feeling I'm also going to make a 5 things I love about my Lamborghini Gallardo because it's an amazing car. Peace. And now we do 100. got to keep up.